Ambassador Zixtal stared at the holographic display floating above his desk. The blue and green planet rotated slowly, showing white clouds swirling over vast oceans and brown landmasses. Sol 3 looked peaceful from space, but the readings told a different story. The planet buzzed with electromagnetic activity. Radio waves poured out into space like water from a broken dam. Satellite networks circled the world in perfect grids. Space stations hung in orbit, clearly built by intelligent hands. Ships moved between the planet and its single large moon, carrying cargo and passengers. Yet for 237 years, the inhabitants had ignored every single message the Galactic Council sent them. Zixtal's blue skin darkened with frustration. His people, the Vorthak, had been trying to contact the humans longer than most species had been members of the Council. The first diplomatic transmission had been sent when the humans still used primitive rockets to reach their moon. Now they had fusion drives and were building colonies on the fourth planet in their system. Still no response. Ambassador? His assistant, Kriva, entered the office carrying a data pad. Her purple skin showed the nervous color patterns that meant bad news. The council meeting is starting soon. They want your report on the Sol 3 situation. Zixtal sighed, a sound like air escaping from a balloon. What is there to report? They continue to ignore us. Their technology grows more advanced each year, but they act like we don't exist. Maybe they can't hear us, Kriva suggested. Some species develop different communication methods. We've tried everything. Zixtal pulled up the transmission logs. The list scrolled down for several minutes. Radio waves, laser communications, quantum entanglement signals, even basic mathematical sequences. We've sent messages in their own languages after we learned them. Nothing works. The datapad in Kriva's hands chimed softly. The Hegemony Fleet Commander wants to know if the humans are hostile. Admiral Kethvar says any species that refuses all contact might be planning an attack. Zixtal's skin turned even darker. The Hegemony controlled the largest military force in the galaxy. If they decided the humans were a threat, things would get very bad very quickly. The humans fight each other constantly, Zixtal said, but they've never attacked anyone outside their system. They don't even know we exist. That's what worries the Admiral. A species that builds weapons but won't talk might be getting ready for war. Zixtal stood up and walked to the large window that looked out over the council station. Hundreds of ships floated in space around the massive structure. Each one represented a different species, a different world that had joined the galactic community. Some had joined peacefully after first contact. Others had needed years of careful diplomacy. A few had even been hostile at first but learned to cooperate. None had ever ignored the council completely. Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, Dr. Sarah Chen worked late in her laboratory at the SETI Institute on Earth. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence had been looking for alien signals for over a century. They had powerful radio telescopes, quantum computers, and analysis programs that could detect patterns in the tiniest bits of data. They had also found nothing but silence. Sarah rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the coffee cup that had been empty for hours. Outside her window, the sun was setting over the mountains. Most of her colleagues had gone home hours ago, but something kept bothering her about the data from yesterday's observations. The radio telescopes had detected what the computer called background interference. This happened sometimes when Earth's own satellites or electronic devices created noise that looked like signals from space. The computer automatically filtered it out to keep the real data clean. But this interference was different. It came from the same direction every time, far outside the solar system. It had mathematical patterns that didn't match any known natural phenomena, and it had been appearing in the data for decades. Sarah pulled up the filtered signals on her computer screen. The wave patterns looked almost like language, with repeating structures and clear organization. She ran them through the translation programs they used for ancient human languages. The computer worked for several minutes, then displayed a message that made Sarah's heart skip a beat. Translation confidence, 73%. Estimated meaning, formal diplomatic greeting, species identification request. Sarah stared at the screen. Her hand started shaking as she realized what she was looking at. These weren't random radio waves from space. They were messages. Someone was trying to talk to Earth. She quickly pulled up more of the filtered data, going back years. The computer found thousands of similar transmissions, all from the same general direction in space. As she fed them into the translation program, a terrifying picture began to form. First contact. Diplomatic invitations. Requests for cultural exchange. Trade agreements. Technology sharing offers. Warnings about conflicts in nearby star systems. And finally, the most recent messages. Formal complaints about Earth's failure to respond. Threats of economic sanctions and demands that humanity appear before something called the Galactic Council. Earth hadn't been alone in the universe. Earth had been ignoring its neighbors for over 2 centuries. Sarah's phone rang, making her jump. It was her supervisor, Dr. Martinez. Sarah, I know it's late, but the director wants to see you first thing tomorrow. Something about classified data showing up in our systems. Classified data? The military has been filtering our observations for years. Apparently there are signals they don't want us to see. The director is not happy. Sarah looked at her computer screen where alien messages continued to scroll past. Dr. Martinez, I think I know what those signals are. What do you mean? I mean we need to call the president. Tonight. The next morning, General Marcus Torres sat in a secure conference room deep beneath the Pentagon. Around the table sat representatives from every major space agency, intelligence service, and military branch on Earth. The mood was grim. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, General Torres said, looking at the files spread in front of him. For the past 200 years, we've been receiving diplomatic messages from alien civilizations. Our security systems automatically classified them as potential enemy communications and hid them from civilian scientists. Colonel Williams, head of the military's Space Monitoring Division, nodded. The signals didn't match any known natural phenomena. They showed clear signs of intelligence and organization. Our protocols required us to treat them as potential threats until we could determine their source. And now we know their source, Dr. Chen said quietly. They're from something called the Galactic Council, an organization of hundreds of alien species that has been trying to invite Earth to join them. General Torres rubbed his forehead. How many messages are we talking about? Over 50,000, Colonel Williams replied. The latest ones are getting increasingly angry. Apparently we've missed quite a few important meetings. The director of the CIA leaned forward. What kind of meetings? Dr. Chen consulted her notes. Diplomatic sessions, trade negotiations, cultural exchanges, something called the Outer Rim Security Conference that happens every 5 years. Oh, and about 30 emergency sessions regarding various galactic conflicts. Conflicts, General? Torres asked. Wars, General. Big ones. Between species with faster-than-light travel and weapons we can barely imagine. And Earth was supposed to be contributing to peacekeeping forces. The room fell silent. General Torres looked around the table at faces that showed a mixture of fear and amazement. What happens if we keep ignoring them? Dr. Chen pulled up the most recent translation on her tablet. According to the latest message, the Council is considering economic sanctions. They want to cut Earth off from something called interstellar trade routes. If we don't respond within 72 hours, they're going to declare us a hostile, isolationist state. What does that mean? I don't know, but it doesn't sound good. General Torres stood up and walked to the wall display that showed a map of nearby star systems. Red dots marked the locations where the alien messages had originated. There were dozens of them, forming a rough sphere around Earth's solar system. How long until the next deadline? Dr. Chen checked her computer. 36 hours, sir. And how long to prepare a response? To send a message, we could do that in a few hours. But General, these aren't primitive aliens. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. If they decide we're hostile... General Torres turned back to the table. Colonel Williams, I want you to activate every space-based defense system we have, quietly. Dr. Chen, I need you to prepare a response message explaining our situation. Everyone else, start thinking about how we explain to the world that we've been accidentally ignoring our cosmic neighbors for 2 centuries. As the meeting broke up, General Torres remained staring at the star map. Earth had always assumed it was alone in the universe. Now they had discovered they were part of a vast galactic community that they had been rudely ignoring for generations. The next 36 hours would determine whether humanity joined that community as friends or faced it as enemies. Far above Earth's atmosphere, automated systems began powering up weapons platforms that had been disguised as communication satellites for decades. In secret facilities around the world, engineers started reviewing plans for spacecraft that had never been built, designed for wars that Earth had hoped would never come. Humanity was about to discover that missing meetings with cosmic neighbors had consequences that went far beyond hurt feelings. The galaxy had been patient with Earth's silence, but patience, even on a cosmic scale, had limits, and those limits were about to be tested. General Marcus Torres had not slept in 30 hours. The coffee in his mug had gone cold again, but he barely noticed. Spread across his desk were translated alien messages that read like a nightmare version of his grandmother's social calendar. Invitation to the 847th Galactic Council session. Your attendance is requested for discussions of trade route security and mineral rights allocation. Reminder: Earth representative required for Outer Rim Defense Planning Committee. Failure to attend may result in reduced protection status. Final notice: Earth's continued absence from council sessions is being interpreted as hostile behavior by several member species. Each message was politely worded, but carried the weight of cosmic politics that Earth had been completely unaware of. Worse, the most recent transmission had arrived just 2 hours ago, and it was not polite at all. Dr. Chen knocked on his office door and entered without waiting for permission. Her face was pale, and she carried a tablet that seemed to shake in her hands. "General, we just received another message. It's different." Torres took the tablet and read the translation. The formal diplomatic language was gone, replaced by something that sounded like a final warning. To the human species of Sol 3, your persistent failure to acknowledge Galactic Council communications has been noted by the Security Committee. Several member species now consider your silence to be preparation for aggressive action. You have 36 standard galactic hours to establish formal communication and provide explanation for your non-participation. Failure to respond will result in economic isolation and potential defensive action by council members. This is your final notice. Torres set the tablet down carefully. How long is a standard galactic hour? We think it's about 53 minutes Earth time, so we have roughly 31 hours left. And what exactly does economic isolation mean? Dr. Chen pulled up another screen on her tablet. Based on the earlier messages, there are interstellar trade routes that pass through or near our solar system. The Council controls access to them. If they cut us off, any future space expansion we try will be blocked. And defensive action? We're not sure, but several of the messages mention enforcement fleets and containment protocols. Torres stood up and walked to his window. Outside, the city looked normal. People went to work. Children played in parks, and everyone assumed that Earth was the center of a quiet, empty universe. In a few hours, he would have to help the president explain to the world that they had been wrong about almost everything. His phone buzzed. It was Admiral Rachel Santos, commander of the Space Defense Initiative. "General, we have a problem. The satellites are picking up new activity in the outer solar system." "What kind of activity?" "Unknown contacts, big ones. They're not moving toward Earth, but they're definitely not natural objects. My analysts think they might be ships." Torres felt his stomach drop. "How many ships?" "Hard to tell from this distance, but at least a dozen, maybe more." "Admiral, I need you to activate every defensive system we have, quietly, and I need you to prepare for the possibility that we might be facing a first contact situation that doesn't go well." "Sir, our space defense systems are designed to handle missiles and satellites. If these are actual alien warships, and I know, do what you can." Torres ended the call and looked at Dr. Chen. "How long to prepare a response message?" "I've already started working on it, but General, I don't know what to say." How do you apologize for ignoring someone for 2 centuries? Very carefully, Torres replied, and very convincingly. 3 hours later, President Maria Rodriguez sat in the Oval Office listening to a briefing that made every science fiction movie she had ever seen seem realistic by comparison. Around her sat the heads of NASA, the CIA, the Pentagon, and the world's leading experts on extraterrestrial communication. Let me see if I understand this, the president said slowly. We've been receiving messages from aliens for over 200 years. Our military automatically hid these messages because they thought they were enemy communications. These aliens represent hundreds of different species organized into something like the United Nations in space. We were supposed to join this organization decades ago. We've missed hundreds of important meetings, and now they think we're planning to attack them. That's correct, Madam President, General Torres confirmed. And we have how long to fix this? 27 hours and 16 minutes, Dr. Chen replied, checking her computer. The president stood up and began pacing. What are our options? We send an explanation and hope they believe us, Torres said. Or we prepare for the possibility that they don't. What happens if they don't believe us? Admiral Santos leaned forward. Madam President, based on the technology implied by their messages, if the Galactic Council decides we're hostile, our chances of defending Earth are essentially 0. The room fell silent. The president stopped pacing and looked out the window at the Washington Monument. How many people know about this? About 30, the CIA director replied. All with top-secret clearance. That won't last long. Get me, the Secretary of Defense, the Speaker of the House, and the Senate Majority Leader. We need to brief Congress immediately, and somebody needs to start writing a speech explaining to the American people that we're not alone in the universe. Madam President, Dr. Chen interrupted. There's something else. The aliens aren't just talking to the United States. They've been trying to contact all of Earth. Every major government has been filtering out the same signals. You mean China, Russia, the European Union, India, Japan? Everyone has been ignoring the same alien messages for decades. The president sat back down. Get me the emergency hotline to every world leader, now. While the president made calls that would reshape human history, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, something was happening that would change everything. The Prometheus manufacturing facility had been humanity's most closely guarded secret for 15 years. Dr. Elena Vasquez walked through the underwater complex, checking systems that had been dormant for years. The facility had been built to manufacture spacecraft for the Mars colonization project, but funding had been cut when political priorities changed. The automated factories had been sitting empty, waiting for someone to need them again. That someone had just called. Dr. Vasquez? Her assistant, James Park, appeared beside her carrying a tablet. We just received authorization codes from the Pentagon. They want us to activate the production lines. For the Mars project? No, ma'am. Military vessels. They're sending us specifications for something called Rapid Deployment Defense Platforms. Elena took the tablet and looked at the ship designs. They were unlike anything in the Mars project files. These ships were built for fighting, with armor plating, weapon mounts, and engines designed for combat maneuvers. How many ships do they want? The initial order is for 500 units, with options for additional production runs. Elena stared at the number. The entire Mars project had planned to build 12 ships over 10 years. Now the Pentagon wanted 500 combat vessels, and they wanted them fast. James, how long would it take to retool the production lines for these designs? With the automated systems? Maybe 6 hours. The fabrication units can handle most of the components. We'd need to install the weapon systems manually, but the basic hull and engines could be mass-produced. And how long to build 500 ships? James ran calculations on his tablet. If we run all production lines at maximum capacity, maybe 72 hours for the basic hulls, another day or two for final assembly. Elena looked around. The vast facility. Robotic assembly lines stretched into the distance, all waiting for instructions. The place had been designed to build spacecraft like an automobile factory built cars, fast, efficient, and in large numbers. James, send confirmation to the Pentagon. Tell them we can have the first batch ready in 4 days. Yes, ma'am. Should I ask what we're preparing for? Elena looked at the weapon specifications on the tablet. Each ship was designed to carry enough firepower to destroy a small city. I don't think I want to know. Above the Pacific, in orbit around Earth, things were happening that would have amazed anyone watching. Satellites that had appeared to be communication relays were unfolding into configurations that revealed hidden weapon systems. Space stations that the public thought were research facilities were powering up defensive shields and targeting systems. Colonel Williams monitored the activation sequence from his command center in Colorado. For decades, the military had been secretly preparing for the possibility of space-based conflict. They had assumed the enemy would be other humans, Russians, Chinese, or terrorists who managed to get weapons into orbit. They had never imagined they might be facing aliens. Colonel, his communications officer called out, "We're receiving a response from the Alien Council." Williams felt his heart rate increase. Put it on screen. The translated message appeared on the main display. Acknowledgement received of human desire to communicate. Council will convene emergency session to address Sol 3 situation. Human representative must appear at Council Station within 72 standard hours to explain prolonged silence and demonstrate peaceful intentions. Failure to appear will be considered confirmation of hostile status. Williams read the message twice. Where is this Council Station? According to the signal source, it's orbiting Proxima Centauri, about 4 light-years away. And how long would it take us to get there? Sir, our fastest spacecraft would take about 40,000 years. Williams stared at the screen. The aliens wanted a human representative to travel to another star system in 3 days. It was impossible, unless the aliens came to get them. His radar officer suddenly spoke up. Colonel, we're detecting new contacts entering the solar system. Multiple large objects moving at incredible speed. Williams felt the blood drain from his face. Are they headed for Earth? Unknown, sir. But they're definitely artificial, and they're bigger than anything we've ever seen. Williams reached for his phone to call the Pentagon. Earth had 36 hours to explain 2 centuries of silence, but it was starting to look like the aliens weren't going to wait for an explanation. They were coming to get one in person. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Elena Vasquez watched her life's work transform into something she never imagined it could become. The Prometheus manufacturing facility hummed with activity as robotic assembly lines that had been designed to build peaceful colony ships now churned out military vessels at a pace that defied every assumption about spacecraft construction. Production line Alpha is completing hull number 47, James Park reported, his voice showing the exhaustion of someone who had been working for 36 straight hours. Line Beta just finished installing weapon systems on hull 23. Line Gamma is starting final assembly on hull 15. Elena looked at the massive factory floor through the observation window. Each production line stretched for nearly a kilometer, with robotic arms and automated systems working with precision that would have impressed the makers of Earth's finest automobiles. But instead of cars, they were building warships. How are we doing compared to the timeline? Ahead of schedule, actually. The modular design is working better than expected. Once the robots figured out the assembly pattern, they started optimizing the process on their own. Elena nodded, but she felt a growing sense of unease. The ships being built below were unlike anything in human space travel history. They were designed for one purpose: fighting. Each vessel carried enough weapons to destroy a space station, armor thick enough to survive missile strikes, and engines powerful enough to chase down anything that tried to run away. But what worried her most was how easy it had been to build them. The Pentagon had sent plans for these warships as if they had been sitting in a filing cabinet for years. The weapon systems were based on technology that Elena had never seen before, but the manufacturing specifications were detailed and precise. Someone had been planning for this moment for a very long time. Dr. Vasquez, James called out, "We're getting a priority message from the Lunar facility." Elena took the communication tablet and read the encrypted message. Her face went pale. "What is it?" James asked. "Luna base is powering up. They're activating something called Project Aegis. Thought Luna Base was a research station. Elena looked at the message again. Apparently not. 380,000 kilometers away on the surface of Earth's moon, Colonel Sarah Mitchell stood in a control room that officially did not exist. Around her, dozens of technicians worked at stations that monitored systems the public had never heard of. Aegis Platform 1 is online, reported Lieutenant Commander Park. All weapon systems are operational. Aegis Platform 2 shows green across the board, added another technician. Targeting computers are locked onto the incoming contacts. Colonel Mitchell looked at the tactical display that showed the solar system from above. Red dots marked the locations of alien vessels that had been detected entering from interstellar space. Blue dots showed the positions of Earth's defensive systems, many of which were revealing themselves for the first time. How many platforms do we have operational? 12 major installations, ma'am, plus the orbital defense grid around Earth. Mitchell studied the numbers. For years, she had commanded what the public thought was a small research base on the moon. In reality, Luna Base was the command center for humanity's most powerful defensive system. Railguns that could accelerate projectiles to 10% of light speed, laser arrays that could cut through asteroid-sized targets, missile systems with warheads that used technology borrowed from failed fusion reactor experiments, all of it hidden beneath the surface of the moon, disguised as equipment for mining operations and scientific research. Colonel, her communications officer called out, "We're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. It's on standard diplomatic frequencies." "Put it through." The translated message appeared on the main screen. "This is Diplomatic Escort Fleet 7 of the Galactic Council. We are approaching Sol 3 to retrieve human representative for emergency council session. We mean no harm and request permission to enter inner solar system." Mitchell read the message twice. The aliens wanted to pick up someone from Earth and take them to their council meeting. It sounded reasonable except for one problem. "How big is this escort fleet?" "Sensors show 12 large vessels, ma'am. Each one is roughly the size of a naval aircraft carrier, and they want to come to Earth." "Yes, ma'am." Mitchell looked at her defensive systems display. Earth's space-based weapons were powerful, but they had been designed to fight human opponents with human technology. These alien ships had traveled between stars, which meant they had capabilities that Earth could barely imagine. "Ma'am," the communications officer said, "we're getting reports from the asteroid belt. Mining Station 7 is requesting clarification on something called Operation Sledgehammer." Mitchell felt her stomach tighten. Operation Sledgehammer was one of the most classified military projects in human history. The fact that a civilian mining station was asking about it meant that someone very high up the chain of command had activated protocols that were supposed to be used only in the most extreme circumstances. "Lieutenant, get me a secure line to General Torres." While Colonel Mitchell tried to reach Earth, Chief Engineer Marcus Webb stood in the command center of Mining Station 7, trying to understand orders that seemed to come from a science fiction movie. "Read the directive again," he told his assistant Linda Zhao. "Activate Project Sledgehammer immediately. All mining operations are to be converted to military production. Fabricate kinetic projectiles according to specifications attached. Target: incoming alien vessels. Authorization: Solar Defense Command." Webb looked around his control room. Mining Station 7 was positioned in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, where it extracted metals and minerals from floating rocks that were sometimes larger than mountains. The station's mass drivers, electromagnetic cannons designed to launch cargo containers back toward Earth, were among the most powerful devices humans had ever built. They were also, he was now realizing, weapons of incredible destructive potential. "Linda, how fast can our mass drivers accelerate a projectile?" "Depends on the size. A cargo container may be 2 kilometers per second. Something smaller could go much faster." Webb pulled up the specifications that had been attached to the military directive. The diagrams showed projectiles that looked like telephone poles made from dense metals and designed to be accelerated to extremely high speeds. "According to this, we're supposed to launch these at 15 kilometers per second. That's really fast, Marcus. What happens when something moving that fast hits a target? Webb ran the calculations on his computer. A metal rod weighing 1 ton, moving at 15 kilometers per second, would hit with the force of a small nuclear weapon, and Mining Station 7 had the capability to launch hundreds of such projectiles. Linda, how many mining stations are there in the asteroid belt? 47 major facilities, maybe 100 smaller ones. Webb stared at the tactical display that showed the positions of all the mining operations. Spread throughout the asteroid belt, they formed a defensive line that could launch projectiles at any target approaching Earth from the outer solar system. "We're not mining stations," Webb said quietly. "We're artillery platforms." "What do you mean?" "Think about it. Electromagnetic launchers capable of accelerating massive projectiles to incredible speeds, positioned throughout the asteroid belt where they have unlimited ammunition, all of them supposedly built for commercial mining operations." Linda looked at the military directive again. "You think this was planned?" "I think somebody has been preparing for a space war for a very long time." Back on Earth, President Rodriguez stood in the Situation Room surrounded by military advisors, scientists, and intelligence analysts who were trying to make sense of a situation that changed every hour. "Madam President," General Torres reported, "we have confirmation that 12 alien vessels are approaching Earth. They claim to be a diplomatic escort, but each ship is larger than our biggest aircraft carrier. What are our defensive capabilities?" Admiral Santos pulled up a holographic display that showed the solar system. Blue markers indicated human military assets, many of which the President was seeing for the first time. "We have orbital platforms around Earth, weapon systems on the Moon, and kinetic launchers throughout the asteroid belt. Our space-based manufacturing facility is producing combat vessels at a rate of about 50 per day." The President stared at the display. 50 ships per day? How is that possible? "The Prometheus facility was designed for rapid spacecraft production. We just never had a reason to use it at full capacity before. And all of these defensive systems, how long have they existed?" "Some for decades, ma'am. The classified space defense program has been building capabilities since the 1980s. The President sat down heavily. "Are you telling me that we've been preparing for space warfare for 40 years? "Yes, ma'am. The program was originally designed to counter potential threats from other Earth nations that might try to militarize space. We never expected to face actual aliens." Dr. Chen spoke up from her position at the communications console. "Madam President, we need to make a decision. The alien escort fleet is requesting permission to approach Earth. They want to pick up a human representative for their council meeting. And if we say no, based on their recent messages, they'll consider that proof that we're hostile. And if we say yes, we let 12 alien warships enter our solar system." The President looked around the room. Every face showed the same expression of uncertainty and fear. "What does our intelligence tell us about their intentions?" The CIA director consulted his notes. "Based on the translated messages, they appear to be genuinely interested in diplomacy, but they're also frustrated by our long silence and suspicious of our motives." "And our military assessment?" General Torres looked grim. "If they wanted to attack us, they probably would have done it already. These ships traveled from another star system, which means their technology is far beyond ours. If they're hostile, our defensive systems might slow them down but probably couldn't stop them." The President stood up and walked to the window that looked out over Washington. Somewhere above, alien ships were approaching Earth with intentions that remained unclear. "How long until they reach Earth?" "About 6 hours, ma'am." "And how many of our own ships will be ready by then?" Admiral Santos checked her tablet. "The Prometheus facility should have completed about 300 vessels by the time the alien fleet arrives." The President turned back to the room. 300 human warships against 12 alien vessels. Under normal circumstances, those would be excellent odds. But these were not normal circumstances. "General Torres, I want all defensive systems on high alert but not actively targeting the alien ships unless they show hostile intent. Dr. Chen, send a message accepting their request to approach Earth, but tell them they'll be escorted by our own vessels." "Ma'am," Admiral Santos said, "are you sure we want to reveal our military capabilities to them?" The President looked at the holographic display showing Earth's hidden weapons scattered throughout the solar system. Admiral, I think they're about to find out about our capabilities whether we want them to or not. The question is whether they find out because we're working together or because we're shooting at each other. In 6 hours, humanity would face its first official contact with alien intelligence. The meeting would take place in Earth's orbit, surrounded by more military hardware than had ever been assembled in the history of human spaceflight. The galaxy was about to discover that the species that had missed every meeting had spent their time preparing for war. Admiral Rachel Santos stood on the bridge of the ESS Prometheus, humanity's first purpose-built command vessel, watching as 12 alien ships approached Earth orbit. Through the viewport, she could see the massive alien vessels emerging from the darkness of space like floating cities made of metal and light. Each alien ship was indeed the size of an aircraft carrier, but they moved with an elegance that no human vessel had ever achieved. Their hulls curved in smooth lines that seemed to flow like water frozen in time. Soft blue lights traced patterns across their surfaces, and they maintained perfect formation despite traveling at speeds that would have torn apart any human-built spacecraft. Admiral, reported Commander Hayes from the tactical station. The alien fleet is maintaining course for high Earth orbit. They're not showing any aggressive behavior, but our sensors can't penetrate their hulls to determine their weapon systems. Santos nodded, trying to keep her expression calm despite the fact that her heart was beating fast enough to power a small generator. Around the alien fleet, 300 human warships took up escort positions in what looked like a formal honor guard but was actually a carefully planned defensive formation. Any word from the surface? President Rodriguez is en route to the orbital platform. Dr. Chen will serve as primary translator. General Torres is coordinating ground-based defenses in case this goes badly. Santos looked at the tactical display that showed the positions of all vessels in Earth orbit. The human ships looked tiny compared to the alien vessels, but there were 25 times as many of them. More importantly, they had been built using manufacturing techniques that the galaxy had apparently never seen. Commander, open a channel to the alien fleet. Channel open, Admiral. Santos took a deep breath. She was about to speak the first official words between humanity and the galactic community. Alien vessels, this is Admiral Santos of the Earth, Space Defense Force. Welcome to our solar system. We appreciate your patience with our communication difficulties and look forward to resolving the misunderstanding between our species. The response came quickly, translated by Dr. Chen's team, and displayed on the bridge screen. Greetings, Admiral Santos. This is Diplomatic Commander Vexai of the Galactic Council Escort Fleet. We acknowledge your welcome and request permission to transfer human representative to our vessel for transport to Council Station. Santos felt a moment of confusion. Transfer? I thought we were going to conduct meetings here in Earth orbit. The alien response took longer this time. Council emergency session requires physical presence at Council Station. Human representative must travel to Proxima Centauri system. This is standard diplomatic protocol. Admiral, Commander Hayes whispered, our fastest ship would take 40,000 years to reach Proxima Centauri. Santos realized the aliens expected her to travel to another star system for a meeting. They obviously had faster-than-light travel capabilities that humanity couldn't match. Commander Vexai, we appreciate the invitation, but humans don't currently have the technology to travel to other star systems. Could the council meeting be conducted here instead? The alien response seemed confused. Human vessels surround our fleet. Your manufacturing capabilities are evident. How do you lack interstellar travel? Admiral Santos looked at her tactical display again. From the aliens' perspective, humanity had produced 300 warships in just a few days and positioned them with military precision throughout the solar system. To them, it probably looked like Earth possessed incredibly advanced technology. Commander Vexai, perhaps we could arrange for one of your vessels to remain here while we discuss the situation. We seem to have some significant technological differences that need clarification. While Admiral Santos negotiated in orbit, deep beneath the surface of the moon, Colonel Mitchell monitored a conversation that was making several alien species very nervous. Colonel, reported Lieutenant Commander Park, we're intercepting communications between the alien ships. Our translation software is picking up fragments. What are they saying? They seem confused about our capabilities. One ship is reporting that human vessels lack artistic individuality, but demonstrate concerning uniformity. Another is asking about our mass production techniques. Colonel Mitchell looked at the displays showing human ship formations. Every vessel in Earth's fleet was identical to its neighbors. They had been built from the same plans using the same materials by the same automated systems. To human military thinking, this was efficient and practical. To aliens who apparently built ships like works of art, it was apparently terrifying. Are they discussing our weapons? Yes, ma'am. They're trying to analyze our ships but can't understand how we built so many so quickly. One commander is reporting that our manufacturing rate violates known limitations of shipyard efficiency. Colonel Mitchell realized that humanity's greatest advantage wasn't superior technology. It was superior manufacturing. The aliens built ships the way humans built cathedrals, slowly, carefully, with each one being unique. Humans built ships the way they built cars, fast, cheap, and in massive quantities. Lieutenant, are our defensive systems still tracking the alien fleet? Yes, ma'am. All railgun platforms have firing solutions, but we're maintaining passive lock status as ordered. And the asteroid belt platforms? All mining stations report ready to engage if necessary. They're tracking the alien ships with kinetic launchers. Mitchell looked at the tactical overview. If shooting started, Earth could put approximately 10,000 projectiles into space within the first minute of combat. The aliens had 12 ships no matter how advanced they were, but she hoped it wouldn't come to that. In the Prometheus facility beneath the Pacific, Dr. Vasquez watched her. Automated production lines continue building warships even as diplomacy proceeded overhead. The facility had exceeded all expectations, completing 400 vessels with another 100 scheduled for completion within hours. Dr. Vasquez, James Park reported, we're getting queries from the Pentagon. They want to know our maximum production capacity. For these ship designs? Yes, ma'am. They're asking how many we could build if we switched all production lines to military vessels and maintained operation for a full year. Elena ran the calculations. With the current automation level, maybe 50,000 ships. If we built additional production facilities, the number could be much higher. James stared at his tablet. 50,000 ships in a year? The facility was designed for massive colony ship production. We expected to build the infrastructure for Mars colonization, which would have required thousands of vessels. Military ships are actually simpler to manufacture than colony ships. Elena looked at the production floor where robots continued their precise work. Each ship took about 18 hours from start to finish, but with multiple production lines operating simultaneously, they were completing vessels every 30 minutes. James, send a report to the Pentagon. Tell them we can maintain current production rates indefinitely as long as we have raw materials. And raw materials? The asteroid mining stations can provide enough metal to build ships for centuries. Elena walked to the observation window and watched another warship roll off the assembly line. The vessel was ugly compared to the elegant alien ships in orbit above, but it was functional, reliable, and most importantly, it existed. In the time it would take the aliens to carefully craft one beautiful ship, humanity could build 100 practical ones. Above, on the orbital platform where first contact was officially taking place, President Rodriguez faced Commander Vexhai in what was possibly the most important meeting in human history. The alien commander was humanoid, but clearly not human. His skin had a bluish tint, his eyes were larger than human eyes, and his hands had 6 fingers instead of 5. He wore what appeared to be ceremonial robes decorated with symbols that probably indicated his rank and position. President Rodriguez, Commander Vexhai said through the translation device, the Council is very confused by your species' behavior. You ignored our communications for 2 centuries, yet you possess military capabilities that suggest advanced technological development. President Rodriguez chose her words carefully. Commander Vexhai, we sincerely apologize for the communication breakdown. Our military systems automatically classified your messages as potential security threats and prevented our civilian scientists from seeing them. We didn't know you existed until yesterday. The alien commander's large eyes showed an expression that might have been surprise. Your military systems have been intercepting diplomatic communications for 2 centuries? Yes, sir. Our planet has experienced many conflicts between different human nations. We developed defensive systems to protect against attacks from other humans. We never imagined we might receive communications from other species. Commander Vexhai was quiet for several moments. Your defensive systems, they were designed to fight other humans? Yes, sir. And these warships surrounding our fleet? They were built in the past few days after we realized the situation. We wanted to make sure our first meeting went smoothly. Commander Vexhai looked around the orbital platform at the human representatives and their equipment. You built 300 warships in 3 days? Actually, we're up to 400 now. Our manufacturing facility is still running. The alien commander became very still. Through the viewport, both leaders could see the human fleet maintaining its escort formation around the alien vessels. From space, the human ships looked like a swarm of mechanical insects, surrounding a small group of artistic masterpieces. President Rodriguez, may I ask how many warships your species could build if you had more time? The president looked at her advisors, who provided quick calculations. Our current facility could produce about 50,000 ships per year. If we built additional facilities, the number would be much higher. Commander Vexhai's skin color changed to a deeper blue, which Dr. Chen's cultural briefing had indicated might be a sign of shock or concern. President Rodriguez, in the entire Galactic Council, no single species maintains a fleet of more than 10,000 vessels. Most species consider a fleet of 1,000 ships to be impressively large. The president realized she might have said something wrong. Commander, we hope you don't see this as a threat. We built these ships because we were worried about the first contact situation. We didn't know what to expect. I understand your concern, but I must ask, how do you build ships so quickly? Council shipyards require years to complete a single vessel. Admiral Santos, who had joined the meeting, answered the question. We use automated manufacturing systems. Robots build the ships according to standardized designs. It's much faster than handcrafting each vessel individually. Commander Vexhai looked genuinely confused. Your ships are all identical? Yes, sir. It's more efficient that way. But how do you distinguish between them? How do pilots develop emotional connections to their vessels? How do you honor the artisans who create them? Admiral Santos and President Rodriguez exchanged glances. The aliens apparently viewed shipbuilding as an art form, while humans viewed it as industrial production. Commander, the president said, carefully, I think our species have very different approaches to technology and manufacturing. Perhaps that's something we should discuss at the council meeting. Commander Vexhai nodded slowly. Yes, I believe the council will be very interested in human manufacturing techniques. Some species will be fascinated. Others may be concerned. Concerned? President Rodriguez, your species has created more military vessels in 3 days than most council members build in a decade. And you did this because you were worried about a diplomatic meeting. The president began to understand the problem. To the aliens, humanity's response to first contact looked like preparation for war on a scale that the galaxy had never seen. Commander, I assure you that we have no hostile intentions toward the Galactic Council. I believe you, President Rodriguez, but you must understand, your capabilities are unlike anything in Council records. A species that can mass-produce warships will change the military balance of the entire galaxy. Through the viewport, the two leaders could see human and alien ships maintaining their careful formations in Earth orbit. What had started as a diplomatic escort was beginning to look like the prelude to something much larger. Commander Vexhai spoke quietly. President Rodriguez, I think the council meeting is going to be very interesting. The Galactic Council station orbited Proxima Centauri like a metal moon, its massive structure housing representatives from over 400 different species. In the 2 weeks since first contact with humanity, the station had become the center of the most intense political debate in galactic history. Ambassador Zixtal stood before the assembled council, his blue skin showing the deep purple patterns that indicated serious concern. Around the circular chamber, hundreds of alien representatives watched as he delivered what might be the most important speech of his career. Fellow council members, Zixtal began, we face a situation unprecedented in galactic history. The human species has not only joined our community, but has fundamentally challenged every assumption we hold about military production and space warfare. On the holographic display behind him, images showed the human fleet that now numbered over 8,000 vessels. In just 2 weeks, Earth's manufacturing facilities had continued producing warships at a rate that left even the most advanced council species struggling to understand how it was possible. The humans did not set out to threaten anyone, Zixtal continued. They built this fleet because they were afraid of us. But in doing so, they have demonstrated capabilities that will change the balance of power throughout the galaxy. In the human section of the chamber, President Rodriguez sat beside Admiral Santos and Dr. Chen. They had traveled to the council station aboard a human vessel that had been hastily modified with alien faster-than-light technology, a compromise that allowed humanity to attend the emergency session. The question before us, announced High Counselor Thexara, the ancient leader whose species had founded the council centuries ago, is whether humanity's military capabilities represent a threat to galactic peace or an opportunity for enhanced security. Admiral Kethavar of the hegemony stood to address the chamber. His warrior species had controlled the largest fleet in the galaxy for generations, and his concern was obvious in his aggressive posture. High Counselor, the humans have built more warships in 2 weeks than my people have constructed in the past century. Their manufacturing methods are completely alien to our understanding of proper shipbuilding. How can we trust a species that treats warships like consumer products? President Rodriguez requested permission to respond. Admiral Kethavar, with respect, our manufacturing methods reflect our history. Humanity has faced many conflicts throughout our development. We learned to produce equipment quickly because our survival often depended on having enough tools and weapons to defend ourselves. But why so many ships? Asked Counselor Vrixtal of the Merchant Guild. Your planet has never been attacked by outside forces. Dr. Chen stood to answer. Counselor Vrixtal, until 2 weeks ago, we didn't know outside forces existed. When we discovered that we had accidentally ignored diplomatic contact for 2 centuries, we were terrified. We thought we might be facing invasion by an advanced alien civilization. So you built 8,000 warships? Admiral Kethavar's tone was incredulous. Actually, Admiral Santos replied, we've built 12,000 ships as of yesterday. Our production facilities are still operating. The chamber fell silent. Even species that had been sympathetic to humanity's situation looked shocked by the numbers. High Counselor Thexara leaned forward. Admiral Santos, why are you continuing to build military vessels if you're no longer concerned about invasion? Admiral Santos looked at President Rodriguez, who nodded. High Counselor, we're continuing production because we've learned about the security challenges facing the galaxy. The Council records show multiple ongoing conflicts with hostile species, piracy problems along trade routes, and territorial disputes that sometimes lead to warfare. We want to contribute to galactic security. Contribute how? Asked Ambassador Zixtal. President Rodriguez stood. We propose to establish human manufacturing facilities throughout Council space. Any member species that needs additional defensive capabilities can contract with human shipyards to supplement their fleets. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species saw the opportunity to enhance their military strength. Others worried about the implications of mass-produced warships becoming available to anyone with enough resources to pay for them. Commander Vexhai, who had become humanity's primary liaison with the Council, requested permission to speak. I have spent 2 weeks observing human manufacturing techniques. Their approach to shipbuilding is fundamentally different from our traditional methods, but it is not inferior. It is simply industrial. He activated a holographic display showing the interior of the Prometheus facility. Council members watched as robots assembled warships with mechanical precision. Human ships lack the artistic beauty of traditional Council vessels. Vexhai continued. Each one is identical to its neighbors, but they are reliable, functional, and can be produced in quantities that were previously unimaginable. What about quality? Asked Chief Engineer Rothdan of the Technocracy Union. How can mass-produced vessels compare to carefully crafted ships? Admiral Santos smiled. Chief Engineer, would you like to see a demonstration? An hour later, the Boer Council chamber watched through real-time feeds as human and alien vessels conducted joint exercises in Earth orbit. The tests were designed to compare the capabilities of mass-produced human ships against traditional alien craft. The results surprised everyone, including the humans. Human ships were indeed less sophisticated than their alien counterparts. Their weapon systems were simpler. Their hulls were less elegant, and their individual capabilities were inferior to the beautiful vessels created by Council artisans. But human military doctrine didn't rely on individual ship superiority. The humans fight in formations, observed Admiral Kethvar as he watched the exercises. Their ships coordinate like a single organism. The display showed human vessels working together with precision that Council fleets had never achieved. Where alien tactics relied on the skill of individual commanders and the unique capabilities of handcrafted ships, human tactics treated individual vessels as components of a larger machine. They can afford to fight differently, realized Councillor Vrixtal. If they lose ships in battle, they can replace them quickly. We cannot. The demonstration reached its climax when human engineers showed how quickly battle damage could be repaired. Council ships that suffered significant damage typically required months in specialized shipyards for restoration. Human ships used modular components that could be replaced in space within hours. This changes everything, whispered High Councillor Thexara. After the demonstrations, the Council convened in closed session to debate humanity's membership. The discussion lasted for 6 hours and covered topics that had never been relevant to galactic politics before. How do you integrate a species that can outproduce the rest of the galaxy combined? What happens to traditional shipbuilding when mass production becomes available? How do you maintain the balance of power when one species can build fleets faster than others can plan battles? When the Council reconvened in public session, High Councillor Thexara announced their decision. The Galactic Council formally welcomes humanity as a full member species. We also established the following new protocols. Human manufacturing capabilities will be made available to all Council members on equal terms. No single species may contract for more than 20% of human production capacity. Human shipyards will be jointly overseen by Council inspectors to ensure fair distribution of vessels. President Rodriguez stood to respond. The human government accepts these terms and proposes additional cooperation. We offer to share our manufacturing techniques with any species interested in establishing their own industrial shipyards. The offer created another stir in the chamber. Some species were eager to learn human production methods. Others worried about the implications of widespread industrial shipbuilding. Admiral Kethvar requested permission to speak. President Rodriguez, if multiple species adopt human manufacturing techniques, won't that lead to massive fleet buildup throughout the galaxy? President Rodriguez considered the question carefully. Admiral, Earth's history suggests that when everyone has strong defenses, there's less incentive to start wars, but we're willing to work with the Council to develop appropriate safeguards. Dr. Chen added, We've also learned that human and alien technologies complement each other well. Our manufacturing techniques combined with Council design principles could create vessels that are both beautiful and practical. The session continued for hours as details were negotiated, but the fundamental decision had been made. Humanity would join the galactic community not as a minor species learning from their elders, but as a civilization that brought capabilities the galaxy had never seen. 6 months later, Ambassador Sarah Chen walked through the first joint human-alien shipyard orbiting Alpha Centauri. Around her, human robots worked alongside alien artisans to create vessels that combined industrial efficiency with traditional craftsmanship. The production rate is impressive, observed her alien counterpart, Master Builder Vextan. But I admit, I'm beginning to appreciate the human approach. When you can build ships quickly, you can experiment with new designs without fear of wasting resources. Chen nodded as they watched a new class of vessel take shape on the assembly line. The ship combined human modular construction with Vorthak aesthetic principles and hegemony weapon systems. It was both beautiful and deadly, a work of art that could be mass-produced. Master Builder, how has the Council adapted to human manufacturing methods? Better than expected. Several species have established their own industrial shipyards using human techniques. The Technocracy Union is particularly enthusiastic. They've begun producing exploration vessels at rates that were previously impossible. And the military implications? Profound. The recent conflict with the Outer Rim Raiders was resolved much more quickly than expected. When the pirates discovered they were facing not 12 council ships but 1,200, they surrendered immediately. Chen smiled. Sometimes the best way to prevent a war is to make it clear that you're prepared to fight one. They continued their tour, observing the collaboration between species that had never worked together before. Human industrial techniques were spreading throughout the galaxy, but they were being adapted and improved by alien innovation. Ambassador Chen, Master Builder Vextan said as they concluded their visit, "I have a question about human history." "Of course. Your species was isolated for so long because your military filtered out our communications. Do you think that isolation was ultimately beneficial?" Chen considered the question. "Master Builder, if we had joined the Council 2 centuries ago, we would have learned your techniques and traditions. We would have built ships the way you built ships, fought wars the way you fought wars. We might have been better integrated, but we wouldn't have developed our own methods. And now? Now we can offer something new to the galaxy. Our isolation forced us to find different solutions to common problems. Sometimes being left out of the conversation leads to innovations that wouldn't occur otherwise." As they watched the latest vessel roll off the production line, both ambassadors reflected on the changes that had swept through galactic civilization. Humanity had missed every meeting, but their eventual arrival had transformed the very nature of interstellar society. The galaxy had spent centuries perfecting the art of careful, thoughtful development. Humanity had spent those same centuries perfecting the art of rapid practical implementation. Together they were building something neither could have achieved alone. Earth had finally joined the galactic community, and the community would never be the same.